Hey friends, it's Steven with Leviathan Snakes, and for this week's video, we are going to be talking about how new ball python breeders can effectively sell high-end animals. Now, when I say effectively, I don't mean just taking a picture of the animal, going to Morph Market, posting that picture and kind of listing up and hoping for the best. Instead, what I mean is finding ways, finding tactics, finding strategies that can generate demand for those animals before you even have them. So that way, when you have those high-end clutches, you already have people lined up ready to buy them from you. So we hope you guys enjoy the video. If you do, please like, comment, subscribe, and let's jump into it. For this video, we want to give as actionable information, actionable tips as we possibly can. So while I'm going to be talking about a specific project in this can be applied really to any ball python morph. It can be applied to any reptile. It can really be applied to any product because the theory is the same. And it comes back to the consumer marketing cycle, which we had talked about. I think we did the series on it last year, or maybe it was the year before, but I will link the videos where we go really in depth on each of those stages of the consumer marketing cycle in the notes below. But anyways, let's jump into this right away. So let's say that you are a new ball python breeder and you decide that you want to get into the Sunset Project, but you don't know if you invest $5,000 in buying a sunset animal that anybody will actually buy from you later on because you're new. And why would somebody buy a $5,000 snake from you when they could buy it from so many other people who already have a reputation? And I think that these questions, these fears are valid, but that's what the point of this video is for, is to try to give you those step-by-step guides that you can use so that way you already have those people lined up and wanting to buy from you when you finally have those babies. So the very first stage of the consumer marketing funnel is raising awareness for yourself, for your brand, and for the product that you're selling. So in this situation, if you are a new ball python breeder and you are interested in the Sunset Project, what I would probably do is I would buy from somebody who is already really established in the Sunset Project. So this could be people like Brad Boa Reptiles, Brock Wagner, Miguel from Always Evolving Pythons, Justin from Canova, people like that. And the reason why this is so important is that is going to help lend that credibility later on, because when you say that you got all of your Sunset stuff from Brock Wagner, other people who are already in the hobby know that Brock Wagner is one of the leaders of the project. So this will help you kind of initially establish that credibility, and if anybody had any questions, they could always message Brock and Brock would say oh yeah, I sold this animal to this person. They're 100% legit. So that's the very first one, is when you are getting into a high-end project, whatever the project is, I personally think that you should at least initially buy from those who are really established in the project. Now, going on from that, you still need to raise awareness for not just yourself, but the project. So people know that the Sunset Project exists. But if you are just getting into it, people don't know that you are part of the project. So my advice on this is when you are getting into a high-end project, realistically, you should be posting about it a lot, and you should be posting about it way before that you have clutches for it, because if you buy a visual sunset male hatchling and you're going to raise them up for a year and then you're going to breed them to females, and then the year after that maybe you might get some babies and they're going to be hets, you want people to know and be able to see that trail that you've had that visual male for years. So you want to post about that visual male on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, pretty much whatever your platforms are that you are marketing your business, because this is going to help create that evidence that people can go back and look at when they are trying to decide whether or not you are legit. In addition to just simply having that evidence, it is going to be pushing out content that you are specifically part of a high-end project, in this case Sunset, to all of the people who see that content. And the more times that they see it, the more likely it is that they are going to remember it. So realistically, step one is you need to raise awareness for yourself. You need to kind of get some credibility, and I think that the easiest way to get that credibility is buy from somebody who's really established in the high-end project that you're interested in. And then what you want to do is you want to start bringing awareness to yourself that you are part of the project and that you're really excited about it. Second step that we want to do is, in this situation, you've already gotten your sunset. Let's say you got your visual sunset male, maybe you got a couple het females. And now you don't just want to say, hey, I'm part of the project, and then hope that just by saying that you're part of the project, people are going to want to buy from you, because a lot of times people are going to want to buy from those who have a lot of credibility. And if you are going to be only going off of the kind of unique selling position that you are part of the project, once it comes time for you to have babies, you're probably going to have to compete on price. And that's not really a situation that I feel like is good for any business, because it becomes a race to the bottom. Instead, what I think that you should start doing is, while you are raising up those animals, I think that you should start trying to engage people in the community, people who might potentially want to buy a sunset from you in the future, but haven't done so already. And if you are a new breeder, oftentimes the way that you can kind of like identify the potential target market is look at other new breeders who are taking it very, very seriously, because if anybody is going to be buying into a high-end project and they're going to be spending $5,000 plus on a single animal, they're going to be really, really serious about that. And you can kind of tell based off of people's social media presence who that is. Anyways, what you should do at this point is you should start engaging with them. You should start building up personal relationships with those people who are like you, and whether or not they're part of the Sunset Project or they're not, you should definitely network and build up those relationships, because as you build up those personal connections, if at some point in time they decide that they want to get into the Sunset Project, they may potentially go to you rather than going to somebody who's a leader of the project, because they have that personal connection to you where they don't have that with one of the leaders. So that's step number 2 that you need to do, is engage with those who are potential customers, potential people who might want the animal, the high-end project that you are going to be working with. Next that we want to do, still kind of going on in that engagement phase, is that we want to create content that catches people's interest. And this can be really about anything, but ideally what you want is content that's going to appeal to that target audience, that person who may want the high-end project that you have invested in. So when you are building out this content, whether or not your high-end project is directly related to it, so like even for this video, Sunset, that's exactly what we're doing for this. Just simply showing off the project that you are excited about within content that catches your target audience's interest will help you, because it's going to potentially create that demand later on. Because as they find your content exciting, as they find your content entertaining, as they find it useful, it's very likely that they will start associating the positive value that your content brings to the project or the product that you are trying to market to them. Next one that you want to do, and this is going to be moving on. So you can do, I would say, anything in the awareness phase, anything in the engagement phase at any point in time as you are building up towards having your first clutch of high-end animals. But when you have your first clutch of high-end animals, there's going to be a period of time between hatching those, or those babies hatching out, and before they're ready to sell. And I think that this small window, this few weeks or so that it takes, I think is a perfect opportunity to move into the consideration phase. So when you are in the consideration phase as a consumer, what's going on is you are thinking about buying something. And while you're thinking about buying something, you are often weighing the pros and the cons to buying it. So in all of this situation, in that stage of a baby snake has hatched out from the egg, but it hasn't had its first shed yet, or maybe it's had its first shed, but it hasn't had enough meals yet, this is a perfect opportunity to create some content that highlights the pros and the cons, the benefits of joining that high-end project. Because as people are considering buying that high-end project, they're often doing research at that point in time. So if somebody is considering getting into the Sunset Project and they go to YouTube, they're probably looking up like pros and cons of the Sunset Project or something like that. And if your video was recently posted because you have babies that are going to be available shortly, you can at that point in time kind of jump in front of that potential customer's eyes, and it might be enough to get them to consider buying from you versus buying from somebody else, because they can see the animals that they were considering buying, they can see the pros and cons from you, they might connect with you personally, and all of these different things are perfect when you are actually trying to make that sale. So Next stage that we have is the conversion stage. And this one, in all of the different stages, I think is the shortest. And the conversion stage is really about like actually making the sale. And this can come in the form of somebody inquires on Morph Market, somebody reaches out on Instagram, somebody's at a in-person show and they want to buy an animal. But when it's coming to the conversion stage and you want to sell high-end animals as a new breeder, you cannot skimp on the presentation. You need to have a really, really strong photography. You need to present the animal in the best light possible. And when I say the best light, I don't mean like editing or anything like that, but you shouldn't simply take a picture of the animal in the enclosure with a smudged lens and hope that that's going to be enough to get them to sell. What you want to do is you want somebody who is browsing to see your animal and be like, oh man, that is the best example of all of the different morphs that I'm looking at right now. I want to reach out to them even though they might not be the most well-known person in this project. So once you connect with them and you start getting that interest in the conversion phase, you want to do your best to show that you are going to give exemplary customer service. And I know that people talk about this a lot. They always talk about that they give amazing customer service. And when I say exemplary, I don't mean this as a platitude, which is what I feel like is how it's used a lot. Instead, I think that you should go above and beyond to try to make sure that that customer is happy. And that doesn't necessarily mean high pressure, but that is giving multiple pictures of the animal, even if they didn't necessarily ask for it right away. Sending them a video, giving them constant updates if they are considering it or if it's on a payment plan or anything like this. So that way that person can feel completely comfortable with you and you are being as transparent as possible and that they're not potentially going to get scammed from you because in this situation, you're a new breeder that may not have as strong of a reputation as other people that they could have bought the animal from. Now, after you end up making the sale, I think that one of the most important stages of the consumer marketing funnel that almost nobody does a good job at doing is the advocacy stage. So the advocacy stage is where you take people who have either purchased from you or they've purchased the product, the solution that you are trying to market, and you highlight them. And when you highlight them and you show that this person made the right decision and you're taking care of them and that they feel special, what ends up happening is they feel better and better about their purchase, and it makes it more likely that they will spread word about that product or service, in this case a specific ball python project, to other people through word of mouth marketing. And word of mouth marketing is how most businesses say that they get the majority of their business or the majority of their most valuable business. So I think that if you follow the consumer marketing funnel when you are trying to market a specific project, even if you are a brand new breeder, you will have a much easier time actually selling it because you've put in the work, you've put in the months, you've put in the years that it took to raise up that animal from a baby to an adult, and you've marketed it the entire time, than if you simply waited until you finally had the babies, took some pictures, threw it up on Morph Market, and then wondered why people weren't buying from you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next week.